So I use chemistry to explain different ways of coming up with ideas, and I call this the chemistry of ideation. And this is rooted in the fact that pharmaceuticals are the industry that spends the most money on R&D. They spend about 34% of sales every year on R&D. And I use specific methodologies which I simply generalized and applied to say, here's different ways how you can come up with ideas. And if you want to see a full article on what I'm talking about, there's a link at the bottom here, bit.ly chemistry ideation. So the obvious first one is, in terms of coming up with drugs or coming up with solutions, copy or improve on someone else's. And if you want a pharma example, there's lots of companies that are generic, that take a drug and make a generic version of it. And essentially that's what it is. They have not innovated at all. They've simply copied it. If you want to apply it to marketing, it's the same idea. You've seen a campaign that you love that is awesome, and you look at the mechanics and you copy it. So that is one way of coming up with ideas, looking what competitors do or what peers do. Next one is called traditional. And I'm using pharma terms here. Traditional is basically the trial and error. You have a specific drug that you want to develop that needs to accomplish something, or if you have a specific problem, you try one thing, does it work? Yes, no. You learn from that. You try the next thing, does it work? Yes, no. Learn from that until you come up with the ideal results. Now, of course, this is a long process, tedious process, very costly process. So pharma has this process called rational. And it's all about testing theoretical models. And if you think about chemistry, it is a predictable environment. There are specific laws that dictate how a chemical changes its nature, or how chemical combines with another chemical to form something. And it's the idea that you can use these models, these laws, to test an idea or to test a new potential medical drug. And you can do the same thing in marketing. You can think of ideas that you can test hypothetically in your mind. Will this work? How would this work? What would the impact be on a customer? And through that way come up with ideas of potential solutions. Next one is structural. That one's a little harder to explain. In chemistry, you can look at how specific elements connect with each other using bonds. And you can use these principles to understand how a new chemical you could create it, but also how it will interact in a real environment. So it's more looking about connections. So for marketing, it's not, best way to explain this is motivations. For example, sex sells. Okay, that is a common pattern, doesn't matter what industry. So it is the idea that you can look at the same behavior in a completely different industry, in a completely different environment, but the same behavior. Break it down, understand how it works, and apply it to your industry, to your environment, as an idea of what potentially could be a solution to your problem. Last one is viral. So some pharma companies are trying this out. Viruses mutate by disruption or random influence. So for example, literally by an error in them reproducing themselves, or by a third-party influence, such as another disease, or maybe the environment that they're in, that changes them. And it's the same idea here, where you can come up with ideas, whether for marketing or for something else, that are created by disruption, that are created by accident, by random influence. Best way I can explain this is, imagine being in a brainstorm, pulling out newspaper, today's newspaper, reading headlines, and that those headlines are somehow ideas. So the newspaper serves as the random generator. They're completely unrelated to what it is that you're doing. But yes, yet those keywords, those phrases, can mean something. They can apply to whatever it is that you're trying to do. For more, go to the article. or just ask me questions. Cheers.